to explain quickly who I am, and yep, keep tweeting. My name's Joe Baguley. I'm the CTO for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for VMware. We have three CTOs in that capacity, I suppose. You've got Ben Fathi, who's the global CTO, myself, who covers this region, and Chris Wolf, who covers the Americas. And what I want to share with you today is our vision. You're going to get lots of deep, in-depth technical stuff today. There's going to be some great sessions from both VMware presenters, community presenters, of which I encourage you in the future to see yourself presenting at a VMUG as well, and also from our partners and sponsors. And you're going to get real detail on what's going on and what they're doing. What I want to do is shape the picture for you of where that all plugs in and what's going on. Because my job and the job of the team that I'm part of is really looking 3-5 years out, maybe further. What is happening in our industry? What do we need to think about? And how do we need to develop our software, our relationship with our customers, and what we deliver to our customers over the next few years so we can stay relevant to you and one of the leading software companies in the world. So I don't know about you, but I've been in IT for over 20 years. Some of you look a lot younger than me. Some of you are a little bit older. I joined IT because it's not boring, right? It's not boring. It's boring to your friends that don't do IT, but it's not boring to you. And it's because there's always stuff that changes. Everything is always about change. And that's what excites me. Yet it amazes me when I go to meet with our customers and CIOs that quite a lot of them seem to be against change. They seem to say, we've done it this way for 20 years, we've done it this way for 30 years, I'm not changing. And you look at these people and you think, are you IT people? I don't think so. I don't think, unless you're excited about technology, unless you're excited about change, unless you're excited about doing things for the future, you're not really IT people. And when I look at IT departments, I see sort of 3 different stages. The first stage is the IT department that is kind of just there because you have to have an IT department, right? And the business views it as the same as the people that provide the buildings, and the people that provide the chairs, and the people that provide the computers, yeah? You're kind of behind the business. You're serving the business. I'd put that as IT is like the furniture, right? It's not exciting. It doesn't make my company different. We just have to have chairs to sit on. And then the second stage is when IT steps up and it starts working with the business and starts saying, I'm going to understand you and understand how I can add value. The third stage, the stage that is exciting to me, is the stage where IT starts to lead the business. Where IT starts to say, okay, dear business people, I've got some great ideas where I can apply technology to what we do as an organization and how we can change the way that our organization behaves. That, for me, is exciting IT. That would get me out of bed every morning. So I suppose your choice is, do you want to be part of the furniture, or do you want to be part of the future of your organization? And really, what I want to talk to you about today is how you can change what you're doing in your business and what's changing in our industry. So IT is actually quite simple. You can get it down to one diagram. This is the diagram. I like to think anyway. What does that mean? So, what you do is you have an application. This could be your customer relationship application, your order processing, whatever the application that is critical to your business, your patient record system, whatever that is. That's your important application. That generates data. You store the data. Then you analyze the data, and then you change the application based on the analysis, which generates more data, which you then analyze, and you change the application again. Now, in a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, this cycle, 3 years, 5 years. We put in a system. We see how it works. We wait 3 years, 5 years until the next upgrade cycle, and then maybe we change how we do this. Do you know how long this cycle takes for the leading companies in our industry? Hours, minutes, days at worst. This is how Facebook and Google have grown to be the giants they are. And the companies that win, the organizations that lead in the future, are the organizations that can go round that circle faster than anyone else. And so what you have to do is you have to look at that and say, how do I speed my company up around this circle? How do we make those steps faster? And the first answer, when you're dealing with lots of data and lots of analysis, we now know is scale. We're now doing things at sizes and scales that we have never thought of before, and it's only going to get bigger. Data is going to get bigger. Now, I hate analysts. No, I don't hate analysts, right? I hate analysts that try and do strange future predictions just to excite people with numbers, okay? Especially the data guys that will start telling you there's going to be 1 billion exabytes of data produced in the next year, and there's more data produced in the last minute than ever in the whole of human history. I'm going to tell you a real fact. Hopefully you all know what an exabyte is, okay? An exabyte is 1,000 petabytes, which is 1,000 terabytes, 1,000 gigabytes, 1,000 blah, blah. It's a lot of data, right? So an exabyte is 1,000 petabytes. It took EMC, who have about 30% of the storage market, it took EMC 20 years, from 1985 to 2005, to sell a total of 1 exabyte of disks. 20 years to sell 1,000 petabytes of disks by 2005. In 2010, they sold an exabyte in 1 year. In 2011, they sold an exabyte in Q3, the 3rd quarter of the year. And in 2013, they sold an exabyte in June. Okay? So we've gone from 20 years to 1 month to sell an exabyte. Now, some of you will be mathematicians, and you can imagine the graph in your head. It's going up, right? And it's quite curvy. So data is growing. You're going to have to deal with things at a scale you've never thought of before, which introduces ways of thinking you've not had before. You're going to start caring about the MTBF of equipment and hard drives. Now, why do you care about MTBFs, right? Remember when we bought a hard drive, it said 20,000 hours, and you're like, that's forever. I'm going to be dead by the time that thing fails. I'm cool, right? Now, you buy a hard drive with 20,000 hours, you're probably going to be running 20,000 hard drives. That means that's 1 an hour that fails. That means someone has a job just swapping hard drives. Now, mean time between failure matters. And when you start buying commodity servers and putting 1,000 or 2,000 commodity servers into a data center, they are going to fail. It's the only way to do the scale that we're doing. It's how... I'm just being asked to move because I'm not in the camera shot. There we go. That's better. Whereas here I'm in front of the projector. I hate standing behind a lectern. Things are going to fail. And what's different about the cloud era is the change in focus to how we deal with failure. Up to now, we dealt with failure in hardware. We had redundant power supplies, RAID arrays, all these other things, right? Now, in the future, we need to think about design for failure being core to what we do. But now, at the scale that we're at, the size that we're at, it has to be done in software. Your future is full of commodity hardware and clever software that is designed for scale and failure. Now, it's all very easy if you're Google to build a large data center or collection of data centers that are designed to this principle because you have essentially one application. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think you have one application in your organizations. Some of you have 3,000 applications in your organization. Some of you have things running NT4. We need to think differently if we're going to introduce technology that does that, and that's what we're doing at VMware. We're building that layer, that software layer that can go across the top of all the commodity hardware, that can sit underneath any application you like. and give you that scale, that design for failure, and that agility to allow you to go round that circle faster than anyone else. That's exactly what we're building. That's the vision that we have in the Office of the CTO. So the foundation for this software-defined enterprise, this agile infrastructure, and that's what agility means, is based around the fact that actually we're all in IT to do applications. Yes, VMware's the infrastructure company. We talk about infrastructure, but we wouldn't do infrastructure if it wasn't for the applications that ran on it. That's why it's there. We don't build infrastructure for fun. So first step you've already taken. Virtualized compute. We get the value. We get what that can do for our organizations. But think about the stages you went through. The first stage was, do I get 10 servers and run them on one server? Yes, that's great. I save money. But if you just take your existing bad servers and virtualize them, you now have virtualized bad servers. It's not a great step forward. You might save some money. But now, and you learn here today, we have technologies in that layer that mean you can do things differently to when you're in physical. Things like fault tolerance, DRS, HA and others allow you to take advantage of that virtualization layer and do things differently and architect differently because you're virtualized. Well, we're going to do that for both networking and storage. Now, why was compute virtualization successful? Because it was a disruptive technology that was non-disruptive. And you look at me and go, Joe, you've just contradicted yourself, right? Well, it was disruptive to the industry, but it was non-disruptive to you as users. You could bring in the hypervisor. You didn't have to change the hardware underneath. You didn't have to tell the applications above. You brought in the hypervisor, got the benefits. That's exactly what we're going to do with network, and it's exactly what we're doing with storage. All of that then allows you, and this is the important thing, when we talk about software-defined data center and the software-defined enterprise, we don't think about that as one physical location, one data center. We think about that as all of your data centers and external data centers and external public clouds. We talk about that as the hybrid cloud. It's not going to matter where your workload sits in terms of management. But that requires you to have intelligent, policy-based automation and management. And so the sessions that you should be looking at today, if you've lived down in this world here, this compute server virtualization world, should be looking at management, should be looking at things like VCAC, because that's where the investment is going to be in the future in your organization. That's where the investment is going to be in the future in your careers, is in that automation layer, spanning multiple locations, and building what we call the software-defined data center. But don't forget, and we haven't forgotten either, that building applications is useless unless people can access them. And so in our end user computing vision, we're looking to find new and interesting ways to make sure that people have access to the applications and the data that they need wherever they need it. So we have 3 focuses at VMware. Helping you build the software-defined data center, helping you use the hybrid cloud, and helping you deliver end-user computing in a way that you've never delivered it before. And I'm going to quickly go through those 3 today and show you what we're doing to innovate in those areas. So if we look at the software-defined data center, the real driver here is about expanding that compute virtualization to the whole data center. Now, there's 2 sessions today that I encourage you to attend. They're key sessions as well. There's Martin Casado, who's going to talk to you about NSX and the network virtualization. And there is Duncan Epping, who's going to talk to you about virtual SAN or vSAN. I'm going to very high level cover those off now for the context of what I'm going to tell you afterwards. Network virtualization is one of those things that I don't think people still quite get. I talk to a lot of journalists, a lot of analysts, and they surprise me that they still don't quite get what we're doing. Okay. So let me explain to you very simply, using some slides that actually we did for VMware Keynote, for those of you who are there, what virtualization of the network actually is. And it's not getting a router and virtualizing it. I can tell you that now. If you look at the way that traffic flows today in data centers in a virtualized environment, if we bring up 2 VMs, the packet will leave the VM, go through the hypervisor, through switches where you've defined how the route goes, through the hypervisor and back up again. You've all been there, right? We bring up a new VM, and I then have to talk to the network people to get an IP address, get a VLAN. Maybe I have to get a new trunk port from the network guys, which is kind of like asking them to give you their children, in my experience anyway, and get the configuration done for you to be able to get that packet from one side to the other. Why should I have to go to the network guys to configure physical services every time I bring up a new VM? That doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense to us, it didn't make sense to Nicira, and Martin will tell you more about the thinking on that later. What we did was we said, let's take that switching functionality and we'll put it into the hypervisor. The packet goes through the hypervisor at both ends anyway, so let's just put it in there now. So instead of getting the switch and virtualizing it, what we're doing is we're getting the functionality of the switch. We're splitting it up into tiny pieces and putting those tiny pieces in every physical host. That's the fundamental difference between network virtualization and what other people are calling software-defined networking or software-controlled physical networking or NFV or whatever you want to call it, right? This is what we're doing. We can do that not only for switching, but all layer 3 to 7 services. We can do it for routing. At the moment, if a packet wants to get from one machine to the other that are on the same physical host, I have to go out of the machine to a router somewhere else in the data center to get the packet to come back. That doesn't even make sense to my mother when I showed her the slide, right? She thought that was stupid. And so if we get that routing functionality and put it into the hypervisor, now obviously the traffic is going to stay local between those 2 machines. In fact, about 70% of traffic in a data center is what we call east-west. It's between servers in a data center. So by introducing this technology, we're dramatically reducing the impact of servers on our network by trying to keep as much traffic as local as possible. One of the things that's a possibility for the future, one of the things we're investigating for the future, is like you have storage affinity with DRS, for example. Imagine if you had network affinity. Imagine if we moved servers around based on you two talk to each other a lot. Why don't you sit on the same physical host? That would make sense. And we do the same for firewalls. We do the same for load balancers. As I said, all 3 to 7 services are now functions in the hypervisor. In fact, better than that, they're just a policy that is attached to the VM. So no matter where that VM moves, the physical network doesn't have to care. In fact, we don't really need to worry about the physical network at all. Our sole question to the physical network people is, do you move IP packets? And if they answer yes, then we're good, right? The rest we're doing in the hypervisor. That's a fundamental change. Can you imagine how much quicker it is to build out your environments when you don't have to go to the network guys to get the router and firewall configurations done? And that those network and configurations live and are born instantly with VMs, and they die with that VM as well. We had one customer told us they went from 15,000 to 300 firewall rules on their firewall when they put in NSX. I think it goes down in history in the first time that anyone has ever taken a rule off a firewall, but that's what they did. Phenomenal change to the way that you behave and operate. Really, this is what we're trying to help you do. We're trying to help you get that agility. We're trying to help your company spin that circle faster. If you can't update the app because you're waiting for the network guys for 3 weeks for the next firmware upgrade cycle so they can then log in and modify iOS to do it for you or put the new SUP in the chassis, then you're actually holding yourselves back. We want to make sure that you can take the provisioning of networks from days down to minutes. That's the point. Now, vSAN, which you'll hear the orange man in the orange room talk about in a lot more detail later on. vSAN is a very similar concept to what we're doing with NSX and networking. What you do is you take, instead of having a SAN or a NAS externally to the hosts, inside the hosts you have SSDs and spinning disks, which most hosts you're buying today have anyway. And this is the way that it's built at the large cloud players that you can imagine. What we do with vSAN is, in the hypervisor, we build a virtual SAN out of those local disks. So when we launched this, I think we surprised even ourselves with the scale that we got to. This will go to 32 nodes, about 4.5 petabytes, support 3,200 VMs with 2 million IOPS, right? In software, using commodity SSDs, no specific special hardware apart from a pass-through controller. That, again, is a dramatic change to the way that we do technology. This is leading us towards what I'm calling the white box future. That's a white box, for those of you who are wondering, okay? Now, what is the white box future? The white box future is about the factors, what are you going to be putting in your data center next year or in 5 years' time? Your racks will be full of 2U or 4U nodes. Those 2U or 4U servers will have 4, 6, however many processors or cores in them. They'll have some SSDs and maybe some spinning disk as well. And you'll just rack them up. It won't matter who provides them. You'll be buying the ones that are cheapest, or maybe have the longest MTBFs. It's up to you. In fact, the MTBF might not matter because you've designed for failure. At the top of the rack, what's going to be at the top of the rack? Well, strangely, top of rack switches. That's why they're called top of rack switches, apparently, because you put them at the top. Who will make those switches? Who cares? That's the interesting thought for you, because the networking is going to be done by those nodes that you install. That switch at the top, you're just looking for something that does, 10 gig aggregation onto a 40 gig spine. That's what you're looking for. It could be made by Quanta. It could be made by Arista. It doesn't really matter, because the intelligence in what you're building is being built in those nodes. And every server that you add gives you more storage, more networking. You're building out as you go. That's what you're going to be doing. That's what the future of your data center looks like. Now, there's going to be hardware customizations, there's going to be tuning, there's going to be a whole bunch of different things. The differentiation in the hardware market will continue. When we first virtualized the server, virtualized compute, the first comment was, well, Intel's not going to be very happy. They're going to sell less processors. Nope. They sell more processors than ever. They even designed specific processors with techniques to support virtualization, because that's what's happening in the industry. And they said, well, okay, fine, but all the hardware vendors are going to be cross because they're going to sell less servers. Nope. They're selling more servers than ever before. Maybe the margins are different, but they're selling more servers. Servers dedicated and designed around virtualization. So when we look at it and we're virtualizing the network, and they go, the network guys are going to be upset. Initially, probably yes. But now every network vendor bar one has signed up as a partner of NSX, because they see this is the future. This is the way things are going. Storage. Well, hang on a second. Aren't we part owned by EMC, a storage company? So why are we doing vSAN? Surely vSAN, they're going to be really upset with vSAN, right? Well, no, because we see it collectively as the future of the industry. We're not going to hold the industry back because we believe we should hold on and not change our industry. We want to advance. We want to do exciting things together. And this is an exciting thing to do. Let's look at hybrid cloud. Why have we built a hybrid cloud? We have one of our hybrid cloud aficionados here. This is Massimo. And are you doing a session today, Massimo? Yep, so if you're interested in hybrid cloud, go see Massimo's session as well. He might even do it in Italian. I hear he's been learning it. Now, we asked at the Gartner Data Center, well, Gartner did actually, at the Gartner Data Center conference last year in December, will your enterprise be pursuing a hybrid cloud strategy by 2015? The answer is over 92% of people are either a yes or a maybe. The no's, which is the 7.4% people, I think they were the guys on the old IBM ThinkPads running Windows XP and probably couldn't answer properly because they had Blackberries. I'm not sure. It's what's happening. Now, what does hybrid cloud mean? Well, today, 2013, 2014, we're seeing about 20% of corporate workloads are in the public cloud. 80% are in private cloud. Which is strange, because back in 2007, I'm sure I heard some analysts predict that by 2015, everything would be in the public cloud. But that didn't happen. Conservative estimates say that by 2017, about 35% of workloads will be in the public cloud in about 3 years' time. Hybrid is the way forward. We wanted to build for you a hybrid experience that truly was seamless. You hear too many times people talk about migrating to the cloud. That's because they're consultants that get money out of helping people migrate to the cloud. Migrating to the cloud should be a seamless experience. It should be drag and drop. That's what we tried to build. When we looked at the way that it was done today, we saw here that, you know, if you wanted to use a public cloud, and this is most of the public clouds available today, it was incompatible. It was a proprietary platform, maybe a different hypervisor. You had to change your builds to be able to get it to work, or even build a new type of build to use that cloud. Trying to get your private subnet to expand into that cloud, virtually impossible in a lot of cases, especially initially. With NSX, by the way, we can have subnets that span physical locations. Strangely, that now helps us with hybrid cloud. Different management tool sets. Completely different management tool sets, different operations, different processes, different training. You had to go and get people who knew how to use that cloud. It wasn't a seamless extension. It wasn't cloud bursting, as people talked about a few years ago, as the hated clouderati term, okay? It wasn't seamless at all. When we talked to our customers who weren't using cloud, they told us these reasons were why they weren't using cloud. We wanted to build a cloud for our customers that was easy to use. We've got over 45 million VMs running in customers worldwide. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for those customers to bring their VMs to our cloud. So we built a cloud that uses our technology, that uses the same software that we sell to you, the same software you install and run, the same interfaces, the same consoles, the same constructs, the same processes, and the same skill sets. So now, with our hybrid cloud, you can bring your existing and your new apps. We run our hypervisor in our cloud. We support over 200 different operating system versions. You want to bring NT4 and run it in our cloud? You can. Massimo's actually done it, okay? I think he did it to prove a point, but then some customers turned up with some NT4 and they were serious. You want to bring your SQL Server? You can. You want to bring anything? You can. You want to bring your production SAP system? You can. And it's going to look exactly the same and feel exactly the same as it did on your premises. With common management interfaces, common networking, and common support. You phone us up for support, we're not going to ask whether it's running in hybrid cloud or whether it's running in your data center. It's a VMware workload. We care, and we want to get you running again. It should be as easy as clicking to put something into the hybrid cloud. And that's why we demonstrated at VMworld last year in the vCenter web client that you now have the ability to have VCHS as a destination. It's so easy. So easy to use, even I've managed to actually do it. Okay? It's very, very simple to use. So, lastly, I want to talk about end-user computing. And end-user computing is probably the most complex, most broken, most disjointed situation we have in our industry. And it kind of concerns me. because it's very confusing. And it's very close to me, and it's close to every one of you because we're all end users. You're not all VMware administrators. You're not all storage administrators. You're not all network administrators. You're all end users. Okay? Now, when we talk about end users, what they actually care about is their applications and their data. They don't care about the operating system. They might care what the device looks like, but they don't care who makes the device in some cases. What users actually want, what the user need is secure access to their files and data anywhere at any time. Okay? That's what they're looking for. Now, the perfect example to me is that we run our own stuff at VMware. And I have a MacBook Air. Strangely, my wife also has a MacBook Air. It's exactly the same size and model as my MacBook Air. So guess what happened by accident when I went on a 3-day trip to Dubai? I took my wife's laptop. I didn't realize till I got on the plane and opened it up, and it wasn't my laptop, so I couldn't watch the films I wanted to watch. And that was the number one inconvenience to me. Once I landed, because we are focused, instead of delivering to the device and managing devices, we're focused on delivering applications and data. I had access to everything I needed the minute I connected up to the internet. Everything I needed. Very, very simply. Because that's the focus you should have. And that's what we're building at VMware. Okay? Software-defined enterprises should be focused on end-user control, end-user availability, no matter what device they use. So today, when you go and listen to the Horizon and AirWatch sessions, if there are them, think about that. Our focus is that. So who's doing this already? Well, this is what we call the NASCAR slide in the industry, because it's like a race car. It's just a load of logos, okay? So here it is for the people spotting on Twitter, the NASCAR slide. But we're also on the path as well. And I think this next bit surprises people, because this is about management and automation. At VMware, we didn't really build our internal cloud until 2012, in June. Strange, Joe, I thought you were the cloud company. We are, but we didn't really build our own internal one until 2012 in June. We launched it then. We had 10,000 VMs by January 2013, 38,000 by mid-2013, and by the end of last year, it was 50,000 VMs. Now it's in excess of 75,000 VMs, as I last understood it, running on our cloud. It's not one of the biggest clouds in the world. We have customers with in excess of 300,000 VMs. And more, actually. There's some I can't tell you about that are even bigger than that. Now, what do we do? What did this actually do for our business? Where did that agility come? How do we get fast around that circle? Well, here's one for you. Hands-on labs. We reduced the number of people we needed to run hands-on lab from 100 to 5. And we now have 0 downtime, and reduced the costs of running hands-on labs at VMworld and now online by 95% by doing this. And now also we actually integrate with vCloud Hybrid Service. And in fact, going forward, new workloads will not be on this cloud probably, they're going to be on VCHS. And we're going to swing all of these workloads over to VCHS. We're already doing that. And because it's just a case of drag and drop, because it's the same cloud, it's actually proving to be very easy. But this is the piece I want to highlight to you, and you probably can't read it from back there. Okay? But this amazes me. Not the fact that we reduced our provisioning time from 4 weeks to 36 hours. That's no great thing. But it took 4 weeks to provision a test environment for our test and dev guys. 4 weeks. Do you know how long it took the team to automate a 4-week process? They went into a project on how do we automate a 4-week process, how do we get this 4-week process automated? It took them 2 weeks. It took them 2 weeks to automate a 4-week process. Half the time it would have taken to do the process once, they'd automated it forever. I didn't believe that. I went and checked, but it's true. For investing less time than it takes you to do something, you can make that thing easier and faster in the future. That's what blew my mind. So, as we go into this future, and end-user computing, think about what I said. Users are in different places doing different things. Applications are appearing that are both old and new. And data is being stored everywhere. Our vision, as I said, is around this secure virtual workspace. And you'll hear the term probably future workspace as a service. Okay? Horizon 6. The idea behind Horizon 6 is one login, one experience, any device. Doesn't matter what you pick up, it should be the same experience. And so yes, whether it's an iPad, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a Chromebook, whether it's a desktop, from that same place you can access Excel, for example, if you'd ever wanted to. But more importantly, on one console you're accessing virtual desktops, you're accessing Horizon published apps. You're accessing packaged thin apps, you're accessing Google apps, Office 365, and now Citrix XenApp, as well as SaaS apps, through one management interface. You put that together with AirWatch, and you're good. You have management of devices too. In fact, the AirWatch piece is quite exciting, and I'll give you one use case for AirWatch. One of our customers uses it in classrooms. They have students bring in multiple different devices. When those students come into the classroom, the teacher can take control of all the devices, lock them down to using one application for just that lesson, maybe even let one of them share what's on their screen on the screen at the front. And then when those students leave that lesson, their devices are unlocked and they can go and do whatever they like. That's the power of AirWatch. It's not installing mobile management to the point where you destroy it and make it unusable. It's making sure that you have secure access to your data and content wherever you are and the ability to manage it. So to finish, software-defined enterprises, if you do this, are more responsive. They save more in operations and staff time. They increase the revenues of their company. They invest more of their money in innovation than any other company. And they're able to secure for their IT projects 2/3 more budget than other companies. So as we head into this white box future, as we head into this world of software value, as we head into this world where everything you do is going to be about software and how fast you can go around that cycle, I encourage you to think about how and whether you're going to be an IT department that is part of the furniture or an IT department that is part of the future of your organization. And to do that, I encourage you today to go to a session that is on an area you don't cover. Go to a session about desktops if you're the server administration guy. Go to the vSAN session if you know nothing about storage, because Duncan doesn't either, so you'll be fine, you'll get on really well. Go to the NSX session if you know nothing about networking, because you're going to need to. Your chance to be the future of your organization is here today, where you can learn the areas and the skills you need. So with that, I encourage you to have a great day, learn something new, meet someone new, and when you're watching someone present, think about how at the next VMUG, it could be you presenting. And there's people here today who can help you with that, like Mike Laverick down the front, who's also presenting. Run a process where they will encourage and mentor you to be a presenter next. And maybe, hopefully, in a year's time, you'll be up here doing this keynote, and I can stay at home. So thank you very much, guys, and have a great day.